Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in today's video, we are going to be de-influencing home decor items you do not need. Now, I'm gonna ruffle some feathers with this one because there's a couple on here especially that are like designer sort of faves, but I just don't think you necessarily need them. This is not necessarily discussing like trends that are really stupid. Some of these are actually really nice items. They're just like, it's just some de-influencing. I think these are just a little bit overrated. Not bad, but just not necessarily worth the hype or the FOMO that it incites in people to feel like they need to buy all these silly little design trends that people buy into. So let's get started. Okay, one thing I will say that I will never try to de-influence you on, and that is adopting a dog and taking the best care of it. You guys know my Sophie is the best fur baby ever. And as she gets older, I really want to focus on making sure that she's getting the highest grade food, which is why I have moved her to Sundays for Dogs, which is the sponsor of today's video. Their dog food is made from entirely human grade ingredients with zero synthetics and artificial preservatives. It's also vet founded and vet run, so I know she's in good hands. I also love that it is air dried, so it's healthier than kibble and sort of easier to use than frozen raw food because if you've ever done frozen raw food, trust me, I have. It is messy and kind of gross. And of course, most important of all is that Sophie loves it. She literally begs for her Sundays food at 4 p.m. like clockwork. Like she checks her little watch on her little paw and she knows it's time for her Sundays. But you know what? Starting a new food for your dog is a really big deal, which is why Sundays for Dogs makes it really easy by offering a 50% off 2-week trial. Give your dog the chance to try Sundays and watch them fall in love with it. So go to sundaysfordogs.com/Nick and use code Nick for 50% off your first order. Thank you, Sundays for Dogs, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to de-influencing lots of different items that you do not need. Okay, first up on my list is going to be a sheep. You don't need a stuffed sheep for your living room. I feel like this trend comes and goes every 20 something years. In fact, I'm deep into my rewatch of The Golden Girls. Highly recommend. Those 4 women are just absolutely vicious to each other and I am loving it. So really into my rewatch. Well, I never really watched it when I was really young when it was on. It was always just that show that was on in the background when I was a kid, but now I'm watching it again and you guys need to check it out. Anyway, there is a scene where they go to this like person's apartment and he's like really cool and like really contemporary for the time in like 1985, and he has a sheep. He has one of these sheep. Here's Rose petting the sheep. And you know what? It was really popular as like a designer chic sort of item in the mid 80s and into the early 90s, I think, but then sort of disappeared for a long time and it's back again. I don't think you need an extremely expensive designer sheep. These are thousands and thousands of dollars. They were designed, I think it was in the late 60s by a French designer and very, very popular over the years, and they come back, but I think right now it's fed into a larger trend of what they're calling animal core, because by the way, if you're new to design here in 2025, we just stick core after everything and it becomes a trend. It doesn't matter really. There's no rules. You just make it up as you go. That's what most of us are doing anyway. So feel free to have fun with that. So like book core or whatever, games core, you just have fun, right? There's no rules. And so animal core just means animal-like things being included in design. It also can include animal prints. This guy, for the record, also had a leopard print pillow on his in the Golden Girls episode. So, you know, it fits into a larger animal core trend narrative, which I personally am not a massive fan of because I think it's, what's the nice way of saying? Nope, there's no nice way. They're just ugly. I don't really like animal print things. I don't really like animal shaped stupid things. I think that they're a little bit silly. It reads really juvenile to me, but a lot of designers, you're seeing them in these chic sort of contemporary spaces. I just think they're super random. I think it's random that I'm at your house and you just have a stupid sheep in the corner. I just think it's stupid. I think it's silly. This is by the way, if you just stumbled on the video, this is 100% my opinion. None of this matters, okay? So feel free to have your own opinion for all you want to. That's cool too. But like, I don't think you need a flock of sheep. These are very expensive and they're quite silly in my opinion. I just think your little Bo Peep moment is not what is needed in your bedroom. So I say de-influence. These are dumb. If you're thinking about getting one and you're thinking about putting this on the old American Express, I would think again before jumping in. This trend will die a swift death and be incredibly stupid. And you'll be like, I paid $7,000 on Wayfair for a stuffed sheep? And you'll think you're pretty freaking stupid in a couple of years. I guarantee you. Okay, next on my list, this one is gonna ruffle feathers for sure. And that is the 22 series electrical outlets that I see all over. I even see other YouTubers, design YouTubers talking about it. Of course, I don't mention names. And like, okay, here's the thing. Hear me out before you go there. I'm not saying this looks ugly. So this is an example, unlike the sheep, which is just dumb. This is an example of a trend that is, or an item that I'm de-influencing where it can actually look really cool. Like, I actually think it's really nice. There's a lot more to the sort of the technology, if you will, behind it in terms of how the electrical and how it all works to be able to achieve this look where you don't have the plate and it's just this sort of socket that just sort of is kind of floating. I think it does look really cool. I think if you're going for a, you know, your kitchen island and you want it to be really seamless and you're not looking to have any of these kind of glaring outlets on there, I get it. Like, I understand these are a little bit more subtle. If you're, say, doing a backsplash and you don't want to have the plate, then this makes sense. Personally, I would think if you can build it into the top of by your backsplash so that you can't see it, that would make more sense to me. But I get the idea, right? Like, this is actually a really cool concept. And the company that makes these is Bocce, which I believe is a local company here. So you know, like, they're really lovely. They're lovely people. Bocce makes beautiful lights. So, you know, Bocce, call me. Like, I love your lights. And I'm not saying these aren't cool, but they're incredibly expensive. And I just think that if you're thinking about, you know, putting a second mortgage on your house to outfit all of your electrical outlets in your home into these 22 series Bocce light sockets, I think that's a little bit too much. Again, this isn't a, these are ugly. This is a, you don't need to remortgage your entire life to change all your electrical outlets over. If you maybe have one or two in your home and you're thinking like, again, those really particular spots in your home where this makes sense, maybe you can justify it. But honestly, spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on one socket, I can't justify it. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not, you know, if you're Gwyneth Paltrow, go and you have that kind of money, go for it. If you have no budget, if there's no, but money is no object, then fine. But for 99.99% of us, money is an object. It's an important object to consider. And I just don't think this is going to be worth it. I would way rather get some sort of really cool metal plate put on there, spend a little bit more on, you know, something that's a little bit more designer. It's a little bit nicer if you're going to upgrade your electrical plates. I think that's a great thing, but I just think there's a cleaner way to do it and it just looks aesthetic. Like playing with different metals or whatever, I think is just a nicer way of doing it as opposed to dumping literally thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to outfit your entire home in this socket. Sorry, it's a great idea and I appreciate the craftsmanship that goes into this. And I love Bocce as a company and I love their lights. I just think this is incredibly expensive and not worth it. So don't feel like you're missing out because you don't have these. Okay, next up on my list, another one that's gonna ruffle feathers is going to have to be, I'll never make that sound again, I promise, is gonna have to be antique furniture. Okay, again, we're gonna file this in the category of I do appreciate it. I really do. Like, I think that a lot of the antiques that I see on social media, people spending huge amounts of money and living this sort of like buying, I feel like a lot of influencers now are like buying antique furniture and then like selling it. Like they've got their, like they're buying it and then selling it. I don't know, am I in the wrong racket, you guys? Should I be doing that? Is this like a way to make a ton of money? Am I stupid? I feel like I'm probably stupid on this one and I should be making money on this. As usual, other people are killing the game and I'm just sitting here in my chair like being like, I don't think I'm doing this right. This influencing business right. But listen, a lot of people are like buying antiques and then selling them and they're on First Dibs and they're going to like Round Top and they're going to all these little things and they're buying antiques and they're selling them and that's profitable, I guess, and that's working for them. I just think for you, you might want to reconsider spending as much money as some people are on some of these antique pieces. Again, I appreciate that, you know, there's supply and demand and there's a lot of demand for some really amazing, beautiful 1960s, you know, sheepskin side chair from Denmark. Like there's a lot of demand for that because they're really cool and they didn't make a ton of them, hence the supply is low and a lot of people that have them don't want to give them up, and I understand how the market works, and that is why these pieces are literally tens of thousands of dollars to get into your own home. I just think that, like, again, kind of like the Bocce lights for me, I don't know if this is necessarily for everybody, and that's why this isn't a de-influencing video, because this is about influencers sort of peddling this lifestyle that you think is kind of accessible to people, but it's actually not. I've said this in my last de-influencing video. People don't understand that influencers, when you're consuming as a consumer, it's costing you money to buy some of these pieces, but as an influencer, which again, arguably, well, I guess I am one, we make money by consuming. Like people will either send us stuff or, like I said, we will make content on buying antiques and then turn around and selling them and making money on the, do you know what I mean? Like we're buying and we're selling and we're making money a couple of different ways. Like it's not this, we're not the same. We're not operating on the same level in that way. And I think that's what this is really about, right? It's just, is it really worth it for you to spend, what does this say here, you guys? Oh my God, I just found this one. I can't see that, I don't have my glasses on. $53,380 US for a set of 6 Pierre Generate chairs. Like that's like $54 $1,000 for 6 chairs. Again, do I appreciate the craftsmanship? Absolutely. Do I appreciate that this is like, again, supply and demand? There's not a lot of these and there's a huge demand for them. Absolutely. But for most people, if you really want the look of these chairs, I don't think it's completely out of the question for someone to go and get dining chairs from a place like Trendy Modern or like lots of different ones out there that are doing reproductions for something like $500-600 a chair, which is a lot more easier, I think, for most people to actually reasonably get to. Or here's a thought, don't get those chairs at all. Get completely new chairs that are completely different, or go to a local craftsperson that is able to make amazing, beautiful chairs that are out there right now. Everybody's got like their own, like locally, I know like Union Wood Co does a really great job, Lock and Mortis does a really great job. Like there's lots of really cool local places, small like craftspeople that will actually like make beautiful, wonderful, awesome chairs. And you don't necessarily need to spend $50,000 on chairs that are, you know, really, really old. So again, I'm not slamming it. If you have money's no object and you really, really, really want this type of chair and you cannot settle for reproduction because you'll always know and they're not the same, and I give you that they're not the same, go for it, spend the money. But don't feel like you're missing out because you can't do it. And most certainly don't feel like you're missing out because influencers are buying them, because I'm sorry, you don't need to keep up with influencers. That's just stupid. Again, nice chairs, you just don't need them. Okay, next on my list is going to be glass blocks. These are all over the place. I could probably put this also in like a trends making a comeback video, which I should probably do that video. Glass blocks are making a comeback, okay? They're everywhere. If you're having flashbacks, you know, honestly, in that like Golden Girls episode, I'm pretty sure there's probably glass blocks in that same room. You know what I mean? Like these were everywhere in sort of the 80s and into the 90s, and they're back again. And a lot of people are mixing them into more contemporary styles. I'm just saying, here's my issue with them. I don't think it's necessarily bad design to have glass blocks necessarily. Like I think they can have a place. I do think though that you're seeing them a lot in these sort of influencer spaces, and therefore, you know, those really, really sort of cutting edge trendy spots that I just think that most people, before you rip out a wall and replace it with a glass block, I think we just need to also remember that these did look incredibly dated 5 years, 10 years after they went in. So am I hopeful that they're gonna survive after 5 or 10 years? I think we've seen this trend cycle before, kind of like the sheep. And I think that that gives me pause on especially a very trendy of the moment thing right now. And maybe not even necessarily structural, but is clearly a fixed element. This is not something that you can just like DIY. Like some of these things I think are relatively harmless. You know, like they come in, people make their dumb foam mirrors, they put them on TikTok, and then they all realize that they're landfill. And the only one that's really harmed there is unfortunately the planet. Okay, that's incredibly destructive. That's not a good thing. But there is also some of these trends that are fixed elements, and people are doing a lot of potentially damage to their house, or at least spending a lot of time and effort into some of these hyper trendy things that probably aren't for this world for an incredibly long period of time. I don't predict that glass blocks in 10 years are gonna be as timeless as some of the other things that are out there, personally. And again, I'm really basing this off of just because we've seen this show before. Literally Golden Girls. Do you know what I mean? Like we've literally seen this show before, and so I would personally just be very cautious in thinking that this trend is going to be here to stay. Okay, next up on my list is gonna be canopy beds. I see canopy beds all over the place. People love a 4-poster. They just love a 4-poster now. Here's the problem I have with these, and these are just like the influencer bed of choice. People love a canopy bed. They want the big canopy. They want the, but to me, here's the problem. People are simultaneously living in smaller spaces while apparently beds are getting a lot bigger. And I feel like that maybe makes sense in the influencer world, or you know, the ones that we see all the time on social media, because maybe their bedrooms are getting bigger, but most people's are not. And they don't necessarily. They're living in smaller spaces, they're living in condos, or they're living in smaller apartments or duplexes or whatever. Please see top 3 megatrends video that I did before, right? People are living in smaller spaces in general because real estate is a lot different than it was before. But canopy beds, they take up so much room. When I think of a canopy bed, I think of Buckingham Palace, I think of Palace of Versailles. Like I am thinking really large, grand rooms, because hey, I was in the Louvre the other day and they had this feature of like what it looked like back in Napoleon's day. And yeah, guess what? He had a giant canopy bed. Like, but that makes sense because the room was also like practically a banquet hall. Like it made sense for a room of that size. And I think sometimes when people with very large homes and large bedrooms and large budgets, they can put in giant beds because it makes sense for the size of the room. Like it actually kind of, you know, fits the scale. But the problem with most people, I fear, is that these are impressionable young people that are oftentimes living at their parents' house in a very small bedroom and really, really wanting a giant canopy bed. And I admit that it's a bit of a fantasy. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit of like a Disney princess fantasy that you get to live out every day on your canopy bed. I just don't think it's practical for most people based on how they're living and the size of their rooms. And so I would challenge you to be de-influenced and think, okay, that makes sense for the room size that a person might have. This might be a bed that makes sense for them, but it's not one that's necessarily going to make sense for me. Also, I'm not just including the square footage. I'm also talking about the height of the ceilings as well. Please double check that before you're sitting there and it goes right to the roof. Do you know what I mean? I would be really careful with some of these canopy beds. Challenge you to think that, yes, this might make sense for those people, but this doesn't make sense for me, and that is okay. There are lots of beautiful beds out there that are not canopy beds that might make more sense for you. Now, if you have the space for it and you love a canopy bed and you want to live that princess fantasy, then I love that for you. Then you just go ahead and get that bed. But you probably don't, in which case, just get a regular old bed. You know what I mean? Okay, so that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna link here to my last de-influencing video because there's a lot more things that influencers are pumping out and giving me content for years, by the way, which is fantastic. And you can see some of those things of why I don't think that they're maybe for you. So go ahead and check that out, and I will see you all in the next video. Thanks, bye.